Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Prowess Live session. I am Leah Steinkirch, COO here at Prowess Project, and we are just getting everything organized to kick it off. We're super excited about this chat today. We're going to be talking about, I feel like it's my new favorite best friend, Gohighlevel, and some of the secrets, tips and tricks, things we would do different, what we've learned in the process of working with Gohighlevel here at Prowess Project. I'm Leah Steinkirch, and Natalee, the other half of our ops team, is going to be joining us today. We'll be talking about how Prowess Project has used Gohighlevel and what we love about it. And for those that are new, Prowess Project, what we are and what we do is we help women that are your tech savvy, they are system lovers, they thrive when they're solving problems, pivot in their careers to become online business managers. From there, in our training programs, we are taking lots of data, matching them up with their ideal clients. So I'm super excited to bring Natalee up, like I said, the other half of our ops team, and we are going to be chatting about Gohighlevel. And Natalee, I know you had a fabulous Kickstarter question for everyone today. You want to throw that out?
Yes. So we'd love to hear, how many systems does it take to currently run your business? And we'll kind of come back to that at the end, but throw in the comments, how many systems does it take to run your business currently, whether it's yours or a client's, either way.
That's such a great question, Natalee. I feel like as a tech lover, I can get all the systems and then try and bring them back down to just a few. 12 million. Yep, that sounds like a familiar answer. And this is one of those questions too. It can be very personal on how many systems you like to use and how intricate you want to get your business. But we're going to be chatting a lot about how Gohighlevel has helped us not only streamline this part of the process, but Natalee, wouldn't you say even just taking a better look at it, looking at it to what do I really need? What do I want things to do? I just feel like there's just a lot of clarity when you get into this kind of process.
Absolutely. The transparency that we have been able to provide each other, Ashley, our clients, has just been immense.
Yes. So why don't we dive in, get started? I see 6. That's another very common amount of platforms that you need to use to run your online business. But as far as Gohighlevel, Natalee, do you want to just give us a quick overview exactly what it is?
Sure. I'm going to be talking to my corporate girlies here for just a few minutes. For those of you that have ever used an SAP or an Oracle or any of those big enterprise resource planning systems, that's essentially what Gohighlevel is becoming for your entrepreneurs. So Gohighlevel has really the foundations of a CRM. So your customer relationship management system, your pipelines, your lead gen, all of that sort of things. In addition to that, pull in the concepts of like a Zapier or any workflow or automation tools that you may be using. It's all built internally into Gohighlevel. Then you bring in the email and SMS marketing. So if you think of things like your Flowdesk or any of those MailChimp type of tools that you are using to reach out to clients, reach out to your network, customers, whatever the case might be, it's all built right in. And then in addition to that, there is a funnel. There are website builders. So your Canva, website development, or, just a Wix or a WordPress, any of those kind of things built right into the system. And that doesn't even really scratch the surface. They are constantly adopting and evaluating new features every single week, sometimes multiple times a week. And so there are integrated payment systems. All of the contracts or documents that you might use with the client can be leveraged inside of the system. And then in addition to that, your Calendly or your Acuity, any of your scheduling software that you're also leveraging inside your system is all built right into Gohighlevel. So it really truly makes it an ERP for an entrepreneur or, agency type of business.
That was very thorough, Natalee. I give you lots of credit. I could not have done that. I just get into the geeky parts, and let's just put that disclaimer here. This is not a commercial for Gohighlevel by any means, but we do want to share how it's helped us in our business, because when I was out on my own in the wild as an online business manager, this was the stuff that I was like, can someone just break this down and explain it to me? Why is everyone talking about this? So that's sort of what we want to do today. And Natalee has given us a fabulous overview of all of these different pieces. And then I will just admit that there's also, when you get into the AI, that's where I'm going to get real geeky about it. You can also, there's chatbot portions of this. So Gohighlevel is just, there's a lot in there. It's a well thought out plan. And then for those of us that want to dive and want to niche, there is those specific things in there also. That's why I like it so much, is that I can get all of my geekiness out in one platform.
Yeah.
So, to get started, Natalee, do you want to just talk about some of your favorite parts, or where this has really, and just to give a little more context too. So at Prowess Project, we were using a specific LMS. We had a different, that was one software. Then we had a Calendly software. Invoicing was done in something else. So we had our whole CRM, so our contacts and our pipeline, that was done in a whole different thing. And then we were bouncing between the LMS system for contacts and then our general one. And then we had a whole different email marketing. In addition to that, we had 3 different websites we were running on 3 different platforms. We had a whole many Zapier connections that we were running to connect all of this stuff and make it talk to each other, which, can break. So that's where we were sitting. So we then said, let's bring at least the LMS, the CRM, the invoicing, the calendar, all under one umbrella, and see how fast we can get to something that feels less Frankenstein-like and more in depth. So throw your questions in the chat as we talk through this that you have, if you want us to pause in any section. But Natalee, I would just love to know, as someone who came into this as we were migrating, what parts do you really like about Gohighlevel, and how has it made your life easier?
Yeah, sure. So really my role as an OBM for Prowess, right? So I think you can conceptually think of Prowess as my client, right? For my ability to simplify and automate repetitive tasks that were taking time from both Leah and Ashley, was, super easy to build once you get the hang of it. So again, there is a learning curve, as there is with any systems, but lots of great content out there, and videos that you can follow, and their training hub as well. But in that, the simplification of our end-to-end business process was huge. The first thing that we really did was just, what is the process from end to end? And as I familiarized myself with the system, I was like, oh, we can put that in Gohighlevel. We can put that in Gohighlevel. Like, we were able to eliminate, like you were saying, the multiple Frankenstein systems to simplify it to where now we can continue to enhance and build and identify new offers and new products that we can, build out for our customers, which is something that I don't know that we had a whole lot of time to do before we kind of established this foundation.
Yeah. And to give one specific example on that, just in a, let's say a launch process, if we're going to do a workshop for anybody, before, it was very divided. What segment of our business was this? Let's say it was a client type of workshop. Ashley wanted to lead with other CEOs, like a lunch and learn kind of program. That was in one separate email marketing system. It was all the tags were coming in. Sometimes it was like, I don't even know where to put all these. Let me dump it into a spreadsheet. So things were very fragmented based on the segments of our business. But now with Gohighlevel, we can build out a workflow that will be regardless of what webinar or what kind of event it's going to be, but use that same structure. And then you just duplicate that email workflow. You duplicate the pipeline assignments and the tasks. And then you then update for that event and you customize those emails. So no longer multiple systems that we're bouncing from. No longer did I have to track the metrics just by exporting a CSV and let me create something myself. And all of these systems are repetitive now. So that's one area that has made our lives so much easier.
Yeah. And to tag on to that, like talking about statistics and metrics, right? Every CEO wants to be able to get that data as quickly as possible. And I know many of our OBMs are worried about, numbers, and they're not necessarily numbers kind of people. By having all of this information in a single system, the ability for us to get numbers in front of you or Ashley is minutes and seconds. I literally export the data. I go into a Google Sheet or a Google Drive. I use the internal AI in one of those systems to, offer me suggestions on how to visualize the data. If the dashboard data isn't already in there. So there's a lot of things that are already in there, but if we're looking to slice and dice the numbers and details a little bit more, it's that fast to be able to get that information in front of you.
That's a great point, Natalee. And for those that might be curious about how the analytics look in Gohighlevel, because that's always one thing when I'm researching a new software to use, I always want to know what that dashboard's going to be like. How much work am I really going to be able to rely on that and then do myself? Mm-hmm. So I will say that it has a very specific dashboard, and depending on what level of you're paying for, there's 3 different tiers in Gohighlevel. That depends on how much you can customize that dashboard. Right. But in general, it will give you a monthly overview of where you are. And then if you, like Natalee's saying, if you do need to dive deeper into one segment, you can just export that quickly and do that on the side. And I have found that with what is in there, I'm doing far less of exporting and, breaking up the data on my own.
Yes, I know you love your spreadsheets and you love to look at those. But it's given you time and space to be able to do other analysis or other creation, because we don't have to. It just is there because it's inherent in the system.
Yes, I will admit that I have spent far less time in Airtable, because that was whenever we would do a launch before, I was building out these things in Airtables in order to get that dashboard and all that data. And I realize now I'm like, I kind of miss my Airtable. So I've found other ways to use it because I'm not having to do it because that data is captured in Gohighlevel. And
absolutely.
There's a couple little tips and tricks in there that if someone gets down the road, let us know if you want more information on this. But they have one feature that I really love, which is that you can create trigger links, meaning that you take the link and you say, track who clicks on this link. So there's ways to even enhance your data within the system and like shortcuts for yourself. So, knowing if someone's that's something they really like to know in emails, there's little ways in there that you can set that up. And then with the automations, it's like having another Zapier experience almost. You can have that data running in the background, whether it is doing a separate spreadsheet or something else to capture that information. So there's just lots of great nerdy parts of the data tracking that I really love in Gohighlevel.
Absolutely. So Leah, what is one of your favorite things about what Gohighlevel has offered us?
Well, I will say it's the automation. The workflows is what they call it. What I love about them, and again, these are your if-then trees, right? These are the workflows of when this trigger happens. You can create the task, you can assign the team member, you can add a tag, and then put it into an email series or have it go into a AI conversation series. What I love about that part of Gohighlevel is that it forces us to take a step back and from the beginning of a project, kind of map it out and decide which of these features we want to use. And I have found that since we started using it, the way that we're doing processes are moving so much faster. We can go from that knowing all the things that can happen. We have that team meeting to say, okay, who needs what out of this and what does success look like? Then we can say, all right, let's go build the email. Someone's assigned to build the emails while someone else is building the automation. And we're knowing that both the customer facing action and the internal team actions are being tracked and built. And so we're having this much more sophisticated process, and then going to create that SOP is so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was one of the things too that I noticed. We started very simple, right? One, to get just familiarized with the use of the system. But in addition to that, it also allowed us to think bigger. And so what, was maybe a 4-step automation before, now we can enhance it and just continue to build upon it And to your point, leverage that multiple times. So build once, use many. And then just go change the tag or change the email template that we need to use for that given recipe.
Yes. Yes. So that brings me to the question of another one that I'm always, my OBM side of me is like, what do I not know? Right? Like what is it that I don't know yet that I'm going to need to know to make it successful? So what would you say are some of the, either the hard lessons or the pitfalls you'd like other people to avoid as we're setting all of that up? What would you say?
Yeah. And you touched on this a little bit, but I'll just go a little deeper. It's really understanding like what is most important at this time, right? So going in for, you want to build your nurture series or you want to build a customer onboarding experience. What is most important at this point, at this starting stage? And then adapting to that as you move forward. So understanding your vision, understanding your strategy, just like you would with any other thing. And then breaking that down into just deciding what is most important at this point in time. Because to your point, you and I could both geek out for hours and like add this cool thing and that cool thing. But is that really important at this point in time? Or do we have other things that we think might boost revenue or, have a better client experience instead? So it's really that. It's kind of your MVP concept, your minimum viable product. Start there. You can always enhance the processes down the road.
Such a great point, because you can go down so many rabbit holes with watching all of the amazing videos that are out there. I will say that to anyone who's curious about it, there are so many. Gohighlevel themselves has a ton of tutorials. They're free. They're on the internet right now. You can see what the product looks like with all these different features. Their developers are the ones putting out their videos, their training videos, or their new feature launches. It's actually the people, and it's I really kind of appreciate it because they're so excited about it and they want to break it down for you and they want to help you understand it. So all of that, they don't hide any of the information. Like, it's all out there. And then you have people who that's their business, is training people on Gohighlevel or selling their products. And all of those are out there on YouTube. So it is endless, the resources you could go and find. But I agree with Natalee, like, have that plan, map out the plan first, because the hours that I have spent or the Saturday nights that Natalee has got, you have to check out this video.
Yes.
Because you'll find all these cool features and think, ooh, I want to start using that, or I could implement it here. And it's so many rabbit holes. So really having that map and knowing what success looks like and marching towards that. And then when you have breathing room, go back and add all the bells and whistles, because it definitely can help you get to the bones of the project. And then it definitely can help you enhance it or make it more sophisticated when you're ready. The other thing I was going to tag on to what you said, Natalee, was you mentioned the customer success features. If that, I really like how I can just say, all right, what is my goal with this, whatever we're doing, right? If this automation, is it to make our customers' life easier? And then really just focus on the features that are doing that versus what makes it easier for the team. Then once I know I've nailed this aspect, then use that other lens to come back and enhance it. And that's where you can add more steps or more tasks or, automation type features. Because it'll integrate into Slack, it'll integrate, into other systems very easily, but you don't have to do all that to get started. And again, you kind of want to make sure your focus is in one area so you get that right, and then go back and add the other ones.
Yeah. And I think a key tip, a thing that you have done really well with as we've been on this journey, is once we have established that MVP, and then you will say, okay, what is not working for us right now? And whether that's, client feedback, customer feedback, or, feedback from myself or Ashley or another member of the team, it's really, okay, we can go refine that. We can add another task. We can add another alert. We can add another tag onto that so it does something different in order to do that more robust process. And those are small tweaks that take a few minutes. We just, have many of those small tweaks that we want to do. So
all the time.
Yes, it's great though.
Yeah. So
what about you?
Yes, I'd love to hear from you guys on what questions you have. If you're wondering, can it do this, or what to avoid if you're starting a certain kind of workflow. So feel free to throw those in the chat. The other thing I was going to touch on, which two things I wanted to mention. One, a question I always have when I'm looking at new software is, does it integrate with Zapier? Does Zapier quickly have the hooks or the triggers? Will it pick those up? Or am I using APIs or webhooks? It does connect to Zapier. It does have some triggers already in there. And if it's not, then it does have the webhook feature, which again, simple videos out there to watch to learn how to do that. So Zapier can catch the trigger from Gohighlevel. You just add the webhook and then it'll go from there. Because, again, it has the form features. So you can embed those forms in emails, into web pages, social media, wherever. And then that might be the trigger to go into another sequence that you have built in Gohighlevel. And it's as easy as setting up that webhook. The other thing I wanted to mention is, yes, it has lots of AI capacity. They are constantly adding different features for conversational AI. So if you are someone who likes AI and wants to build that into your workflows, it absolutely has those features too. Again, huge rabbit hole that you could go down. I don't advise doing it if you're just trying to migrate over and get started on it, but it definitely has that runway.
Absolutely. Yes. I think the other call out that I just want to add in there real quick too is when you are kind of building out that MVP, like, don't underestimate how detailed those processes can actually be. So when you're working with, your clients, and when Leah and I are talking about a process, in the CEO or the client's mind, they're like, oh, it's just a process, right? And so one of the things that, behind the scenes, you have to remember as that OBM is it takes a little bit of time. But if your clients have email copy and they have, a pretty clean starting point, it's fast. But, as you are getting through the build and the design of the system, it will take a little bit of time just to get all of that stuff converted. And there are great tools that Gohighlevel offers to help upload your contacts, create your tags, convert your courses or your emails and things like that too. So those are other features that are helpful if you're migrating from an existing system.
So Natalee, I'm going to ask the question I know is a lot of people's mind. If you are migrating, okay, let's start with if you were an OBM and you wanted to get yourself set up in Gohighlevel, what kind of time commitment do you think that is?
In my opinion, so think about how long it took you to get your Calendly, your Flowdesk, your Honeybook or Dubsado, your QuickBooks, any of those kinds of things that you may have set up in the background, and it's going to take you that amount of time. So the corporate mind in my head is the data piece first, right? How good is the data that you are going to be injecting into the system? That could potentially be a 2-week process just to get your contacts into the system, get them cleansed or standardized. And then going through the tagging process and making sure, because depending on what system you're coming from, they may not have had the same ability from a tagging perspective that you do in Gohighlevel. And we love our tags because they help us drive so much different behavior depending on what the tag is. And so that in and of itself can really be, a decent project to take on. Then I would say it's another 2 weeks to kind of build out your funnel, your lead gen, and have, your pipeline set up so that you have the appropriate customer journey that you want to build in there. And then also in there is all of the standard setup, right? Your logos, your calendar, the calendar functionality and features inside of Gohighlevel. It's a little tricky once you first get started. They offer 4 or 5 different types of calendars. So you want to play around with what makes the most sense in there. But that, can be a week or two of process. So, in reality, it's probably an 8 to 10 week process just to get your bare bones in the system And then you can start building automations. You can start building out your workflows. You can start enhancing and adding in some of those other nice to have features once you have that MVP built.
When you say 8 to 10 weeks, like about how much time are you spending per day or week? Like, is this?
That is probably a half day. So 3 to 4 hours a day,
Okay.
I think is reasonable. I think the biggest thing too is how far are you going to go? So are you creating your website, right? If you're creating your website, that's a whole other aspect of the project that you need to account for. And again, any of these can translate to a client's needs as well. So if your client is converting to Gohighlevel, you need to account for these work elements for them too. Integrations. So your Google account or your Outlook account, whatever you're using for a calendar, email system, if there's any integrations there, your payments, so any Stripe or PayPal or Square integrations, that's a setup process that you have to do. Gohighlevel does have some onboarding support that they will provide depending on what tier of the program that the client or agency is set up in. But it really depends on the vastness of what is in scope for that migration. And so again, you just want to be transparent, but I think the biggest thing that we really have learned through this is breaking that down into those small chunks and starting with what is most needed first and then working backwards from there.
And would you say, like, I'm going to give my cheat sheet of how I would say if I'm, okay, this is what I want to embark on. The first thing to set up is those calendars. The calendars will get you used to creating a workflow.
Yeah.
It gets you used to understanding the back end. And on the help desk calls, they will help you in that first onboarding call. Usually they give you about an hour. But getting that calendar process is key. The next is setting up your email domains. And again, they help you with that on the onboarding process. This is usually an hour, and they'll give you the template for the calendar workflows, and they'll help you set up that URL. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you want to then take a step back and map out your business.
Yeah.
Where are my contacts going to come from, and what might I want to tag them? What behaviors what actions do I want them to take? And put that into your automations list that you want to build. And then next, how do you want to look at the stages of your business that you might move someone through? And that's building out the pipeline. Once you have that mapped out and you have the email set up, you have your calendar set up, you can start using this, I would say, on a day-to-day basis as you're building out the rest of those workflows.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that was a great picture of kind of how we approached it. And also we absolutely learned on the job, right? We were migrating influx. Some of our OBMs were supporting us through that launch transition or platform transition. And I think the biggest thing, to your point there again, is what is most important priority wise, right? What is going to get us the farthest, fastest, and then we can add on the bells and whistles as we grow.
Yes, a big shout out to anyone that was probably on our March workshop launch. I made so many mistakes in there just because I was moving way too fast in Gohighlevel and tried to get it all set up. So thank you to everyone who would be like, Leah, this link isn't quite working. But again, it was a lot the first 2 weeks. That was drinking from the fire hose. And then from there, I understood where I was probably making the mistake. And then I would say 6 weeks out, I could predict the mistakes I was going to make, right? I could be like, okay, let me make sure that I get that time right on that event. Let me make sure that I get all of this set up in the bulk sense, that sort of stuff. So it's definitely intuitive, I would say, to the online business manager's brain. If you like to problem solve, if you like to find the solution and you're not afraid of technology, I mean, it's a dream because you could pretty much customize anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that too. I think that's so true. We know exactly where we need to go confirm or double check every time we have a launch now. We know, okay, these are our hot spots. We can easily go in. We know exactly where to go because we had that experience, laid out. And to your point, we have that on paper first before we put it in the system. So it allowed us to really understand where we were building. And we even have now like a roadmap for the future on, and we want to add this and we want to add this, but we can do it based on, over the holidays when we're not in the middle of a launch or whatever the case might be, when it's going to be least disruptive to standard day-to-day business. And, it's going to enhance for a future experience.
Yes. Any other questions from you guys on what you would want to know? I'm not afraid to tell you the mistakes I've made. Feel free to post those in chat. I will say too, that this one thing that I do love about Gohighlevel is there was a Saturday where we were having an issue with our emails not showing up in the right inboxes. I got on a call with Gohighlevel support team. I ended up with, because it was the weekend, and so one of the more higher level developers was taking calls. He spent like an hour with me. And he just was like, do you mind if I keep seeing how this goes? We just launched this feature and I'm not quite sure why it's doing this. And so what I love about their team is they're just as curious and want to deliver that, the customer relationship. They want it to be seamless, but so they're really curious. It's not that, well, this is what it is. And then, it's not getting updated for 6 months. I can't help you. He was so curious. And that's the kind of people like I like to work with, is they're also curious and problem solvers.
Right. They want their product to be something that people will speak highly of. And so they are just as invested in resolving the customer challenges so that they can help deliver that to more and more customers.
Yeah.
And one other thing, kind of to call back to you were saying about like your learning curve. So, Leah had already started, Prowess had already selected Gohighlevel as the go-to tool when I kind of jumped in and started working. And Leah and I were chatting one day and she was like, do you know this system? And I was like, no. And so, full disclosure, I had not had a ton of experience. I'd heard of it. I've, seen the YouTube videos and things like that, researching other challenges that I was having with CMS, LMS kind of situations, but had not had a ton of hands-on experience with it when I got started. And for those of you that might be afraid of, a client that uses that, or you might step away or steer away from that, what I would tell you is if you are OBM minded, again, what we're talking about is building a business process flow. The system is so intuitive that the ability to make that happen is almost like, written out for you inside of the system. And so I was able to jump in with Leah and just pick up and run with pretty, few, oh God, Leah, what did I get myself into here kind of questions. We've both made mistakes, but I think we've got some amazing things that we've built in there. But as you are, working through that with clients, for those of you that are in OBMU, in our community, if you have questions, always, just reach out. We're available to you there to help support as well.
Yes. Completely agree. And it didn't look like much of a learning curve at all, Natalee. You made it look pretty easy. The last thing I wanted to touch on is, who would you say Gohighlevel is not for?
Ooh, that's a good question. Gohighlevel is, I would say Gohighlevel can be a tool of choice, but it is probably not ready for somebody who does not have, I'm going to use my filter, their stuff together. So focus with your clients on your business audit and kind of data cleansing and process definition before you get started with something like Gohighlevel. If they don't have a very extensive or wide journey that their customers or clients are going through, you're probably not ready for this again, because it's like all of those tools in one. It may be a little too much for them to get started. So I would say focus on building that up first, getting that right for the first, 90 to 120 days. And then you can look at the system. And the second group that I would just say is, again, we talk a lot about just clients in general. It's that ability to pay. If the client's revenue is not at a point where you are going to see ROI, you're going to see your client lead gen cover the costs of a system of this nature. Obviously, it's not something you want to invest in at this time. So, until then, it's probably okay to use some of those disparate systems and link Zapier connections between them to kind of get started.
Yeah. I would definitely say that if it is not going to be a long-term relationship, if you're an OBM working with a client and they're like, hey, I heard about this latest, greatest thing.
Yeah.
If they're not invested in someone if they're not tech savvy and they're not like that ability to pay is not at least 6 months out.
Yeah.
They might get frustrated with someone coming in, setting it up and saying, okay, now you go, because it is something that you update a lot and you duplicate workflows and that sort of stuff. So I would say it's someone, if the ability to pay looks limited and they're not tech savvy, it's probably not for them. And then I would also say there are ways to use Gohighlevel. If there's someone who's like tracking my leads and getting on my emails, they have more than one problem you're trying to solve. That's where I can see it being really valuable, and they're going to save money on systems. But if it's really like they're already using MailChimp and that's working, it's not, it's not, it has to be someone who's trying to problem solve more than one thing and bring it all together. Those are people that I think really benefit. Otherwise, it does look like too much and they could get lost in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that ongoing support. Now, we're not talking the, half days for,
No.
days and weeks on end. Once you get that system supported, I would say our maintenance on a weekly basis is 30 minutes to an hour, depending on what's happening in that week, which is massive, again, compared to just thinking about your own systems, right? You don't have to go in and update, 18 different spots when you have a new client, because it all just flows into the process. And so I would definitely say that support absolutely is going to decrease over time. But if they're not going to be invested in having somebody do that ongoing support, it's not right for them at this time.
So thanks for that clarification. Yeah, I'm kind of speaking about like if there's someone who's going to say, and I want another calendar set up.
Yeah.
It's not really, if someone's not tech savvy, they're probably not interested in going in there and setting up the next calendar and then making sure it's in the workflow for the appointment setting. Yep. If they're going to have lots of different email series and those workflows might look different, like let's say they want to have a lot of different lead magnets. They want 4 or 5 over time. Yes, as an OBM, it's really easy to duplicate that and then set it up for the right forms. If it's not a tech savvy CEO, probably would frustrate them.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what I meant of like that. But for us, like Natalee, I think you're totally right. It's probably 30 minutes on the back end in the month to make tweaks and changes to make Gohighlevel work better for us. Yeah. And I will say when it comes to, hey, I have this new lead magnet, Leah, I need a landing page, I need a form, I need an email series. Right now it's like, great, I'll just go duplicate everything that we have, because they have, we didn't even touch on that. We could do a whole thing on just the way they'll have funnels, meaning web pages, like your landing pages that link through to your thank you page. Those they don't all have to be built on your website as a brand new page. They're built into funnels that link to the URL. So just, you can duplicate so easily in Gohighlevel.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just a frame of reference, right? And a random example, we talked about how getting the scheduling set up and the whole process, right? So you have an individual that wants to schedule an appointment for a certain time frame. You have to build the schedule. You have to build in the availability. You have to build in who is going to take that appointment or how that appointment is going to be scheduled. You have to define, when is that appointment going to be in terms of, your hours of availability. And then the workflow, right? So how do they get to the calendar? How do they get a confirmation once the appointment is scheduled? What is the process leading up to the appointment that has to happen? Just this week, we had something that we wanted added in. It took me maybe 25 minutes to copy and create the entire workflow. And that was as simple as it was. So it's, again, once you have that foundation, adding the new features is really, it's almost too easy sometimes. I'm like, oh, okay, what am I going to do here?
Don't tell. All right. Thank you guys all for listening to us talk about Gohighlevel and how much we have enjoyed using all the automation features and all the different aspects of Gohighlevel. Again, this isn't a commercial for Gohighlevel. We just wanted to share the information, again, from that OBM perspective of, I've heard about it. I don't know what it is. How could this make my life easier? And what could I possibly avoid? So if there's any other questions that as you're going through the process and you would like to connect with Natalee and I will throw a calendar link into the chat and you can always reach out to us. There you go. But yeah, we're here to help. Let us know what you need. If you want to know more about just how this can help an OBM in their business, we are excited to talk about it.
Thanks,
All right,
Leah.
guys. Have a great week, and we will see you next week, the same time.